Welcome to Crime Podcast, Unsolved Mystery Series, episode 71. Today, we're diving deep into a case that is, well, as baffling as it is heartbreaking. The unsolved mystery of Sunita Patil. And, this isn't just another true crime story. This deep dive, what makes it so gripping is how a seemingly simple accident, spirals into this maze of unanswered questions.
Yeah, it's fascinating, actually. This case, the way it challenges our assumptions. We think about accidents as these straightforward events, but when you really look at the details of Sunita's case, those assumptions just they fall apart. It reminds us that even the most ordinary day, it can take like a really dark turn and just leave a trail of mysteries behind.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. For our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with Sunita Patil, can you paint a picture of who she was?
Yeah.
Beyond the headlines.
Sunita was a force, really. Someone so dedicated to empowering women in her community, especially those facing economic hardship. And she wasn't just talking about change, she was making it happen. Through education programs, skill development workshops, even microloan initiatives to help women start their own businesses.
Wow, that's incredible. But I'm sensing there's a little more to the story here. The sources mentioned she faced some pretty serious pushback for her work, right? What kind of resistance are we talking about?
Yeah, you're picking up on something important there. You're right. There's this crucial layer here. Sunita's work, as inspiring as it was, it ruffled some feathers among certain powerful figures in the community. She was challenging the status quo, and some people saw her efforts to empower women economically as like a direct threat to their own influence, their control.
So this wasn't just abstract opposition then. It sounds like her work had very real consequences for those in power.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting, right? Because remember, we're talking about a woman found dead under, mysterious circumstances. Was this just a tragic accident? Or did her activism make her a target? That's the real question at the heart of this deep dive.
Right. Okay, so let's rewind a bit then to July 10th, 2017, the day everything changed. What do we know about Sunita's plans that morning?
So Sunita she was scheduled to meet with local leaders to discuss actually a new women's empowerment program, which is kind of ironic considering the circumstances. She left home around 9 a.m., told her husband she'd be back by noon, but she never made it to that meeting, never returned home.
Oh, wow. That must have been just terrifying for her family. When was she found and where?
Later that evening, a farmer discovered her body in a shallow ditch on the outskirts of town. Really remote area, desolate, known to be deserted at night. Initially, investigators, they assumed it might have been a traffic accident, given the location. But as they examined the scene more closely, a different picture started to emerge.
This is where those initial assumptions start to break down, right? What didn't add up about the scene?
Well, several things, actually. First, the ditch was too shallow to suggest a high-speed collision. There weren't any tire marks, no debris from a car accident. And then there were the bruises on Sunita's body, particularly on her arms and neck. Those bruises suggested a struggle, a confrontation of some kind, something far more sinister than a simple fall.
Okay, so we've got a location that doesn't fit a car accident and signs of a possible struggle. What did the autopsy reveal about the cause of death?
The autopsy confirmed blunt force trauma to the head as the cause of death, which could be consistent with a fall, but those bruises just don't align with that scenario at all. It's like finding pieces of two different puzzles all mixed together.
Right, yeah, and adding to that puzzle, I remember reading about her missing belongings, her phone, her handbag, her notebook. Were those ever recovered?
No. They vanished without a trace. And initially, investigators explored robbery as a possible motive, especially with those missing items, right? But then, another twist. There were no ransom demands. No attempts to contact the family for money.
And this is where that robbery theory starts to unravel, yeah?
Yeah.
Why target someone in such a remote location, inflict that kind of violence, and then not even try to profit from the stolen goods?
It's a good question. It's one that investigators really grappled with. If robbery wasn't the primary motive, what was? And that's when they started to look at a much more chilling possibility, Sunita's activism, and the potential enemies she might have made because of it.
Okay, let's delve into that a little bit then. Did investigators find any evidence linking her death to her activism?
Well, they investigated the people Sunita had clashed with, right? Those who felt threatened by her work empowering women, but concrete evidence linking anyone specific to the crime, that remained elusive. It's like having a suspect list, but no fingerprints at the crime scene.
So we've got a puzzling death an inconclusive investigation, and a whole lot of unanswered questions. It's time to examine the various theories proposed to explain what happened to Sunita. Let's start with the accidental fall. On the surface, it seems plausible she could have tripped, hit her head, and that was it, but
But the bruises, those missing belongings, those details just scream foul play. It's highly unlikely that a simple fall would result in those specific injuries and the disappearance of her personal items.
right, okay, so accidental fall, probably not. What about the robbery gone wrong theory? We already touched on some of the weaknesses there, but are there any aspects of it that, that support it at all?
Well, the missing belongings certainly lend some initial weight to that idea, but the lack of any demands for money, the choice of such a remote location, the violence involved, it just makes it a much, much less convincing scenario.
Yeah. So robbery is on the table, but it doesn't quite fit. Which brings us to a more chilling possibility, a targeted attack. Given Sunita's activism, her willingness to challenge, powerful figures, this theory seems to hold more weight.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it makes sense. Sunita was disrupting established power dynamics, and someone may have wanted to silence her. It's conceivable that those who felt threatened by her work, they decided to eliminate the threat she posed.
But here's the challenge. There's no direct evidence linking anyone to the crime. No smoking gun, so to speak. It's a theory that fits the circumstances, but without evidence, it remains just that, a theory.
Precisely. And that's the frustration with this case. There's a strong sense that someone out there knows what happened to Sunita. But the investigation just hasn't been able to connect the dots definitively. It's like having a map with a starting point and a destination, but the route is obscured.
We've covered a lot of ground here. We've got a dedicated social worker found dead under suspicious circumstances, a police investigation that hit a wall, and two theories with their own strengths and weaknesses. But before we delve into the remaining theories and explore the lasting impact of this case, I want to pause and ask you, our listener, what stands out to you from the evidence we've discussed so far? Which theory feels most compelling and why? Take a moment to reflect on what we've learned about Sunita, the events of that day, and the inconsistencies that cloud this case. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into this unsolved mystery.
Welcome back to CrimePod Castle's Unsolved Mystery Series. We're peeling back the layers of the Sunita Patil case, a story that, raises more questions than it answers, really.
Right before the break, we asked you to think about the theories we've discussed, right? Accidental fall, robbery gone wrong, and targeted attack. We saw how each one has its flaws, which makes this case even more, perplexing.
Yeah, it's like trying to solve a riddle where the clues, they contradict each other. But let's add another piece to this puzzle, shall we? The possibility of a personal grudge.
The classic who had a motive angle.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly something that comes to mind in these kinds of cases. Did investigators find any evidence pointing to a personal conflict? Something that might have led to Sunita's, demise.
Here's where things get even murkier. Their investigation into Sunita's personal life, it didn't reveal any major conflicts or threats. Friends and family describe her as someone who genuinely cared for others, someone who, didn't seem to have enemies.
So, while we can't completely rule out a personal grudge, it seems less likely given the lack of, supporting evidence. This is precisely what makes this case so frustrating. We have these four theories: accidental fall, robbery gone wrong, targeted attack, and personal grudge. But none of them seem to fit perfectly.
It's like having all the ingredients for a cake, but not knowing the recipe, It's these unsolved cases with their nagging uncertainties that really capture the imagination. There's always that lingering thought, what if we're missing something crucial? A hidden detail, an overlooked connection. It's what keeps investigators and, armchair detectives like us searching for answers.
Speaking of searching, it's been several years since Sunita's passing.
Mm.
Has there been any new development in the case? Any whispers of it being reopened?
Officially, the case remains unsolved. However, Sunita's family and friends, they refuse to let her memory fade. They continue to advocate for a fresh look at the evidence, hoping that, advances in forensic technology or maybe even new witness testimonies might shed light on what really happened.
It's a testament to their unwavering love and determination. And it speaks to the profound impact Sunita had on those around her. Her death wasn't just a statistic. It left a gaping hole in the lives of those who knew and loved her, as well as the community she served.
Absolutely. And her story raises these critical questions, about the risks that social workers and activists face, especially those who dare to challenge the status quo. Their work, it often disrupts power dynamics, and that can make them targets.
It's a chilling reminder that the fight for justice and equality, it can come at a steep price.
Indeed. But Sunita's case also serves as a powerful testament to her bravery and an unwavering spirit. She knew the risks, yet she chose to fight for a better world. Her legacy lies not only in the lives she touched, but also in the inspiration she continues to provide to those who seek to make a difference.
As we reach the final stretch of our deep dive, what are the key takeaways we want our listeners to ponder? We've explored the twists and turns of this unsolved mystery, but what's at the heart of the matter?
First and foremost, let's remember Sunita Patil as a person, a vibrant individual with a passion for empowering others. It's easy to get lost in the maze of evidence and theories, but at the core of this case lies a human tragedy.
Her story also highlights the complexities of seeking truth and justice. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, the answers remain elusive. But that doesn't mean we should stop searching or demanding accountability.
Precisely. And lastly, Sunita's case underscores the importance of protecting and supporting those who work tirelessly to improve the lives of others, especially those who face resistance and danger for doing so.
We've meticulously examined the evidence, navigated the twists and turns of the investigation, and grappled with the lingering questions surrounding Sunita's untimely demise. This deep dive has been an emotional roller coaster, leaving us with a mix of sadness and a profound appreciation for individuals like Sunita who dare to make a difference.
It's a poignant reminder that justice delayed isn't always justice denied. While this specific case remains open, the quest for truth and accountability must persist.
It's been a heavy deep dive today. Sunita's story, even with its, well, lingering mysteries, it serves as a reminder, the risks that come with fighting for a better world.
It is. It's a sobering thought. Her case, while unique in its specifics, it reflects, unfortunately, a broader pattern. Threats and violence faced by activists, social workers globally. Their work often challenges, these deeply entrenched power structures, and that makes them targets.
It's a point that really hits home, yeah. Makes you wonder what can be done, to better protect those who are putting themselves on the line like that, to make a positive impact, especially in communities where the power dynamics are so skewed.
Well, one crucial step is amplifying their voices, I think. Shining a light on the incredible work they do, the dangers they face. The more awareness we raise, the harder it becomes to silence them, to intimidate those working towards justice, equality.
Absolutely. We can also we can support organizations that provide legal aid,
Hmm.
security training for activists and social workers. They shouldn't have to face these risks alone.
Exactly. And holding those in power accountable for their actions, corruption, intimidation, violence. These things should never be tolerated, no matter the context.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought, something to ponder. Sunita's case, while tragic, it also serves as a call to action. What can you do in your own sphere of influence to support those fighting for a more just, a more equitable world?
It doesn't have to be grand gestures. Sometimes the smallest acts of solidarity, of support, can make a difference. Sharing their stories, donating to their causes, even just speaking out against injustice when you see it. These things can have a ripple effect.
Remember, change rarely happens without courage and collective action. Sunita's story is a testament to that. And while her case remains unsolved, her legacy of courage, of compassion, it continues to inspire.
We hope this deep dive has, well, not only shed light on the specifics of Sunita's case, but also sparked a deeper reflection. The challenges, the triumphs of those who dedicate their lives to making the world a better place.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. We encourage you to continue exploring Sunita's story. Share your thoughts, your reflections, and most importantly, find ways to contribute to a world where justice and equality, they prevail.
And as always, we appreciate you tuning in to CrimePod Castle's Unsolved Mystery Series. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, follow us on social media for more compelling deep dives into, well, fascinating and thought-provoking mysteries.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the memory of those like Sunita Patil alive.